let's have a look at it. Thanks for all that, which I believe is a great title. Because we all need to say our thanks now and then. So, Thanks for All That by James Merrill. My partners in crime, what a wonderful round it has been, has it not? We robbed the world blind, utterly hoodwinked, fooled the little dears into believing we were here to help, here to serve, while all the time we cut flesh from their chemically suffused bodies, flesh and useful bits of their psychic arsenal, draining them of the ability to think straight, so obfuscating their ability to discern the wood from the trees. They, poor souls, were convinced, still are, that they owe me, that they have not done enough to save the pitiable planet they domicile upon. If only they knew. But fat chance of that, fat chance. For we served them a potent dish, paid them a shekel or two for their complicity, for their ill-informed agreement to bow before the goddess of mal-informed consent. Poor dears, poor fools, they have such fun robbing you, blind. Robbing and, were I to say, destroying you? Would that be interpreted as hyperbole or finally taken as gospel truth? I wonder. You see, you are as good as dead. To admit to yourselves how utterly misplaced your faith has been in our shallow, beyond words, lies and deceptions would break your little conclave of remaining ego. How to survive such a blow, I know not. So die, dear ones, die, in ignominy, and know that no one aided your destruction more than your own desperate desire to believe our bold concoction of half-baked, scarcely credible ramblings, more than yourselves, for you so wanted to believe that reason and logic were enough, that you could dispense with sense itself, and the greatest faculty of all, the great know thyself no matter what, or else rot in hell. Know the simple truth that trumps time and again the cleverest thoughts and ideas, policies, laws, or theories of clever soul, disjointed man. I triumph at your expense, and yet something in my heart cannot quite soar, though you have given me all I craved, and more, far more. Yet mankind crawls belly down, desperately clinging to life, while I feel, shame for me to admit it, bored. My enemies have let me down. This victory comes too cheap. I scarce can celebrate.
Yes.
Yes is a good start. Please elaborate. Your mind?
Well, there's lots of which remains incomprehensible. For example, individual words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Individuals are not a problem.
That we can always look at. There's a dictionary for it. No problem.
Yeah, but there's someone who speaks.
Mm-hmm.
There's this first person, and who is he or she?
Or they. Excuse me?
Or they.
Okay, yeah. What's your impression?
Remains a mystery.
yeah, how do you feel about it? How do you feel after reading it or listening to it?
Well, there is something that might scare people about. There's something about it that might scare
But not
people.
you.
Not me, scare people away. And yet it's quite calm. There's nothing dramatic or tragic about it, nothing that's sort of presses.
What are the feelings in it? Maybe you should read it yourself, because really I'm reading it for you, but because Skype is a bit stupid. But really you're supposed to read it for yourself to feel it. When you say it, it's like you include it into your own system, you make it true for you. Because when you're listening to it, it's still a little bit from a side. When you read it, well, you may say it's a pretending game, but still, when you read it, your mind, your body believes that it comes from you, and then you can feel it more acutely, your reaction to it. So maybe you should try and read it.
Oh, let's try.
Okay. That's important.
Thanks for all the... Yeah. So I'll be reading it now.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for all that. My partners in crime. What a wonderful run it has been, has it not? We rocked the world blind, utterly hoodwinked, fooled the little dear into believing we were here to help, here to serve. While all the time we cut flesh from their chemically suffers bodies, flesh and useful bits of their psychic arsenal, draining them of their ability to think straight, so obfuscating their ability to discern the wood from the trees, that they poor souls were convinced, still are, that they owe me, that they haven't done enough to save a pitiable planet they domicile upon. If only they knew, but fair chance of that, fair chance, or we serve them a potent dish, pay them a shekel or two for their complicity, for their ill-informed agreement to vote for the goddess of mal-informed consent. Poor dears, poor fools, we have had such fun robbing you, blind, robbing, and were I to say destroying you, will it be interpreted as comfortable, or finally taken as gospel truth? I wonder. You see, you're as good as dead. So admit to yourself how utterly misplaced your faith has been in our shallow, beyond words, lies and deceptions. Would break your little conclaves of remaining ego. And how to survive such a blow, I know not. So die, dear ones, die, enormity, and know that no one aided your destruction more than your own desperate desire to believe our bold concoction of half-baked, scarcely credible ramblings, more than yourselves, for you so wanted to believe that reason and logic were enough, that you could dispense with sense itself, and the greatest faculty of all, the great know thyself no matter what, or else rot in hell. Know the simple truth that trumps time and again the cleverest thoughts and ideas, policies, laws, or theories of clever soul, disjointed men. I triumph at your expense, and yet something in my heart cannot quite soar. For though you have given me all I craved and more, far, far more, yet mankind crawls belly down, desperately clinging to life, while I feel shame for me to admit it. What? My enemies have let me down. This victory comes too cheap. Us can celebrate.
Mm-hmm. So is it different when you read it?
It is, of course, but then again, in order to read it, I have to be able to understand, if not the entire poem, at least these small bits it consists of, so that there's some logic or there's some natural flow as I'm reading it. And yet the mystery remains.
Good. There's no good poem without a bit of mystery. Who? A good question. Maybe we'll discover it in the end. Maybe not. Who knows? We may try.
It's like it looks like a monologue of a super being, not just a superhuman, super something. And yet we know some beings that are very much supreme. The God, for example, is supreme, and yet we are told that God is graceful. And
so who is the other guy who is trying to rule the planet? We all know who he is. There's no big mystery.
Yeah. So is that this other super or supra-human?
He's not human as such. Not really.
Well, he's not human as such, but he is supra somewhere.
Aye. Well, we have gospel truth in here, so we have the context.
Yes.
We have the context. So, what words do we need to discuss? What are these strange words in here?
Well, there are some.
Okay, let's go through.
Let's go through the words.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, how can we discuss a poem if some words are really weird? Yeah.
Well, the words that seem weird for me is starting line 3. Hoodwinked.
Hoodwink, like deceived.
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 Okay. Then let me go through the rest.
Yeah, take your time. We're not in a hurry. Have all the time till Monday. Next month.
I think it's also true that it's not the words, but rather the combinations or the sequence of words that sometimes raises questions.
Okay, just ask me. If I can answer, I will. Sometimes you just have to feel it. You just feel the context, or then you know, he's using some clever words. Interesting. So what is the next question?
Well, I think that was the only word that raises the question per se. Otherwise, it's all about the meanings that are contained in the sentences. And it's interesting that the writer uses some simple words and some colloquial phrases alongside words which are part of the literary arsenal and
from law,
from religion, from maybe from sort of chemistry, physics, from
it's all connected. You can't look at one without looking at the other. It's always connected. It's one of the big problems today is that the experts become too narrow in their fields. They can't see the connections between the fields because they can't always see the connection within their own field because they study something really, really narrow. But then, on one hand, it's good because you go deep. On the other hand, it's not so good because you just miss the picture. So maybe that's what is happening here. We reconnect. So what is the impression of the narrator, just judging by the style you just described? What kind of a person is it?
Well, it's a learned person. It's a person who feels himself, herself, itself to be very powerful, who is capable of philosophizing on things, who has, also it seems, a strong contempt for mankind, for ordinary human beings. And at the same time, this is the person who has this very human desire to be the winner, and yet he is sensible enough to understand in the concluding lines that victory comes too cheap and is no victory at all.
So where are we in the poem? Are we the narrator? Are we the poor dears? Are we our partners in crime? Where are we as we read it?
We might be partners in crime. So when he says, my partners in crime, again, I use he just...
Yeah, let's just say he, because it's...
Yeah, when he says, my partners in crime, the initial impression is he addresses someone standing next to him. If there is a conspiracy, that these are the conspirators. But now that I think more about it, I might think that the partners in crime are we, as different from him, the narrator. Willingly or unwillingly, knowingly or unknowingly, we become his crime partners.
Yeah, because he says that you yourself made it.
Yeah.
So we have word we here, like we robbed the world, we cut flesh, we served them a potent dish. We have we and we have them. Yeah. Maybe it's we like me, but very important. Maybe. Like they, somebody, but we like we, the Queen of England.
Or maybe it's just to there's some irony in the first line. What wonderful run it has been.
Yeah.
He asks, and then I, because I wanted it, he says, and you, although you suspected nothing, we are both partners in crime. I and you, it was we who robbed the world blind. You didn't suspect anything. I knew it from the very start. And, well, now I can be a bit, ironic. I can sort of laugh at you in a very polite and well-educated way. As a serious.
So Lucifer, let's say it's Lucifer, because it's like a good name for this character. Lucifer has to be intelligent and well-educated and good-looking. That's a job. Yeah, because when we use all these clever words and logic, we really love logic and reason and logic. That's where you need to be well-educated and eloquent. Okay, so my partners in crime, that's already a mystery. The first line, the first words. Who are my partners in crime? Partners. A part of me. My partners in crime. Well, a wonderful run it has been, has it not? So again, like you say, the beginning of the poem and the end of the poem. If you read it once, you start reading it. What a wonderful run it has been, has it not? It could be optimistic, but if you read it to the end and you come back to the beginning, then it sounds rather bitter. What a wonderful run has it been, has it not? Irony. Yeah. So
that's certainly true.
What about the next line? We rob the word blind.
Again, we, the partners in crime, you are just as much responsible for what's been done as I am. He says, we rob the world blind. Again, the world, including people and maybe everything else that there is in the world, were unsuspecting. They were blind to danger, and then they were robbed without even understanding that they were robbed. And again, the word robbery and rob means something that is a bit degrading, I would say. If we say we killed someone, it means there was a violent act.
Yeah.
Someone was probably unsuspecting, probably it was a knife in somebody's back, but still there's a sense of tragedy in it. The word robbery does not really
it's like shrubbery.
It's like robbery. It's like a petty crime that's just that just happens, and sometimes happens because people who fall victims to the crime are
careless.
Not careful, are careless, and sometimes, careless. That's probably the best word.
Yeah, and we have the word blind, which is important, because that's the idea which repeats in the poem, how the world is blind to what is happening. And
And blind again, either because you were made blind by the force that was too powerful for you to withstand it, or maybe just because you were blindfolded, your eyes were closed or covered with something, and if your eyes were closed, maybe it was you who took the decision to close your own eyes.
If we just look at the literal meaning, then rob the world blind just means it was really easy to do. Like taking a candy from a child. So we have it. again, in the first line, how it's cheap. It's not really a victory. There's no fight, there's no struggle, there's no sense of victory. We just drop the word blind, utterly hoodwinked. And of course we have blind and then hoodwinked, and we think about the hood, which makes you blind. Yeah, so on one hand you can say, that's a great art to cheat all the world, to deceive the whole world, but is it? The world wants to be deceived. It's ready to be deceived. It's much nicer and easier and much more pleasant to be deceived than to admit the truth. If you admit the truth, you have to deal with it. If you don't, it's like it never existed. Except it does. Utterly. Completely. Again, utterly. Fool the little dears into believing we are here to help. So we have robbed, blind, then hoodwinked, now fooled. All the words like I'm clever, you're stupid, I'm clever, you're stupid. But again, so what? Or was it difficult?
It was quite easy.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people who are deceived are little dears.
Mm-hmm.
Little, just as children are little. Dears, again, we might feel the irony here,
Mm-hmm.
or we might compare deers here to deer, the animal.
Yeah.
The animal that basically has no, who is innate to think, unlike us
Mm-hmm.
humans. But it seems that we, with all our knowledge and all our skills, are just as easily deceived as deer,
Mm-hmm.
as sort of, and we form a big cattle that goes the way the leader leads it to. But then there's also in this line the word help.
Mm-hmm.
Believe and help.
Yeah.
In the religious context, that is more or less perhaps the context of this poem, and the word believe has a very important meaning. You are not, well, at least there are many who say you're not supposed to be very rational about things. The most important thing is to believe. But then, of course, the question is what it is that you are believing. And here, someone believed that they, he and these partners in crime were to help. And the word help, of course, brings us back to helpless children, brings us back to helpless people who are too stupid, who are somehow handicapped to be able to think for themselves.
Well, not necessarily, but anyway, anyway, it's somebody who think they need help, even if maybe they don't. But that's what they're led to believe, so that these guys could step into the picture. So first you make a problem, then you come and say, oh, I can help you with it. You just forget to mention that you caused it in the first place. So obviously you have the solution because you caused it, maybe. So here to help, here to serve, to be your servant. And you are my master, I'm your servant, I do as you bid. While in reality it's just the opposite. So again, it's a play of forces. Who is in charge? So you think you're in charge, but really you're not, but really you are. But not in a way that you believe you are.
Yeah. Again, there's something that tells us it's interesting that we are present both in
in both parts.
Structure, in both parts. We are we and we are them.
Yeah, which is logical and natural.
Who are being fulfilled together. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the next line, shall we go to the next line?
Yeah, please.
Here to serve contains another important word. Someone comes to our service, or so it seems. Someone is ready to be our servant.
With no soul, as we remember from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, and that's quite interesting. And again, it seems that the person who claims to be the servant, who claims to be sort of unimportant, inferior to us, by way of deception, becomes the most powerful, becomes that leader who leads us into we don't know where.
Yeah. So again, that's what's going on here. I'm your servant, so you feel in power.
You feel in power, but in fact you are indeed helpless and powerless. If you are not on guard.
So again, you believe you hold the position and so you have the power, while in reality power lies in a completely different direction. You're not looking the right way for this power. You say, my power is here, but it isn't. It's an illusion. You do have power. You're amazingly powerful, as it's stated a bit later in the poem, but you don't know where your power lies, and so we can lie to you because you don't know where your power lies. So you are susceptible to lies, which lies to reason, because it can't stand to reason, it has to lie down to reason. While all the time, and here we introduce time and allness. Again, we are not locating it in any place. We're not saying, that's in London or that's in Moscow. We don't even say it's on planet Earth. So it can be just multidimensional. It could work on many levels all the time and like all the dimensions. We cut flesh from the chemically used bodies, flesh and useful bits of their psychic arsenal. Comment.
Well, now it becomes violent. So far, there's been much irony. There's been we've seen a couple of sentences that can be interpreted or reinterpreted, and now there's but they are more or less abstract. When you fool someone, you probably act on a mental level. When you rob someone, again, you might act on a mental level, while cutting flesh is very physical.
Chemically suffused bodies.
And that's also true for chemically suffused bodies. Again, you might easily imagine it, and you can feel.
You don't have to imagine it, you just have to walk outside. If you're in Ireland, you don't have to imagine it, you just drink your water and it's full of fluoride and other dreadful stuff. If you're in Moscow, you walk out and they're spraying stuff. If you're in the United States, you walk outdoors, they're spraying stuff. It's not a secret, it's everywhere. Chemtrails, things. It's even on the official news, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't have to imagine it. So again, it brings us the image of cattle. Like you said, little deers, like cattle or herding animals. So again, the animal may think that the farmer is their friend because the farmer is helping them and serving them, feeding them and cleaning them and sees that they're well. So of course the farmer is their friend, but up to a point, because ultimately the farmer is their friend, but to the point where, well, the original idea comes into play. And we know about chemically suffused bodies of animals. Again, we are talking about the body level, something physical, not abstract, like you say. Again, we cut flesh. Again, living flesh. Violent cutting, making less. Cutting is violent. Flesh is you, a part of you, a big part of you. So you may think it's about Shakespeare and Shylock, who wanted a bit of a young maid, but the context is different, of course. So again, what do? We form them to our liking. We can change your body by using chemicals, because humans are very chemical beings. Humans are electric beings, humans are chemical beings, and with all the movements which deny the importance of body, which say only mind is important or only spirit is important, and then you forget that your body is your vessel, which is really important, equally important. And then you don't pay that much attention to your body while you should do it. You should do your exercises, you should be exploring, you should be working with it. And then when you don't look there, when you think, it's just body is stupid, I'm like a little machine. If something gets out of order, I come to the doctor and the doctor fixes it like a machine. So as long as you think your body is a machine which can have spare parts, then you don't pay that much attention to what you're eating, what you're breathing, what you're drinking, or what is happening to your body, or what you can do for your body, what your body can do for you. And then it becomes your weak point, and then it's just chemically suffused, like suffering and used. Like filled, but like suffering and like used bodies. Flesh and useful bits of their psychic arsenal. Again, a mind is not different from body. Lots of people are like materialistic and they say, wow, it's just rubbish. Who can touch my mind? I'm the master of my mind. But it can be harvested. The flesh of your, again, psychic. On one hand, psychic like mental. On another hand, psychic like psyche, like soul. And the way he describes it, why are they doing it? Are they just being really violent and horrible? Do they just want to hurt people? Why do they cut flesh from them, from bodies and from their minds or soul?
Well, there are two possible reasons that can both be true. The first is we cut somebody else's flesh from his or her body because we would want to consume it in one way or another. Or maybe we cut somebody's flesh and we interfere with somebody's mind on somebody's mental level, psychic level, because we want to make that person incapable of doing something, of thinking about something, of saying no to something.
So, in any way, as we have used in self-used and now useful, he sounds practical. He doesn't say like, oh, we hate people, we like to hurt people. No, really, he doesn't think that they're equal forms of life. He sees people as cattle, again. Useful, they're not interesting, they're not worthy to think about, they're just useful. You can use them. A psychic arsenal. So we have arsenal, which on one hand is military. So again, you think you're in power, you think you have some weapon, you have some weaponry, but at the same time it's a little bit ironic because we have R's in arsenal, R's and all, arsenal, maybe, because we're talking about bodies as well. So you think you are big and great, but really you are not. Or you're not big and great in the way you believe you are, so you can't use your power because you're not looking for it. So we talk about using people on both body level and soul or mental level here. So again, when they're harvesting people, they're doing it thoroughly, or they do it very carefully. They're not leaving anything useful behind. They know how to harvest. Draining them of the ability to think straight. You can think, but you can't think straight. Yeah, you're allowed to think, but you will think in a twisted way. In the way that we tell you to think, and like, we have lots and lots of examples today, unfortunately. Oh dear, when just people don't know anymore what is good and what is not good, what is moral, what is not moral, what is acceptable and what is not. And again, it's the work of Lucifer. It's the first step, the first thing which Lucifer tells people to think. You are great, you can do what you like, basically. And then you can't think straight. And again, draining them of the ability, rather technical word here, draining them. And we don't see any opposition. We do this, we do that. What do they do? Nothing. They're happy to follow, because they can't think straight.
Oh yeah.
So, obfuscating their ability to discern the wood from the trees. So basically it's saying the same thing. Is it different?
Well, it refers to our mental abilities, and in that sense it's basically the same. People who can't discern the wood from the trees are the people who are unable to perform essential logical operations. Again, unable to think straight.
So why do we need to repeat it?
Maybe because we want this metaphor, we want the trees, we want the wood for a certain reason.
Why?
That's my question.
Well, maybe because we have all these technicalities, we need to put something living in it, but not straightforwardly, because it doesn't really belong to it. But we need a bit of air as we read it. So we put in the wood and the trees in the poem just to have a little space for breath. Maybe.
Yeah, and of course it's, again, in many people's minds, the mention of wood produces some kind of nostalgic, maybe just nice, it creates a nice impression, because we normally tend to like woods, we tend to like trees, and again,
just because we mention the word, our brain becomes a little bit happy for a few seconds. Yeah, so that's another trick. But then wood might be connected back to hoodwinked. Hood, wood, winked. Hood, winked, wood. Maybe. So again, it's a trick. It's not the real wood. It's a trick. So, and of course, the amazing word obfuscating, which means just what it sounds. So, obfuscating their ability to discern the wood from the trees. They, poor souls, were convinced, still are, that they owe me. So now they have souls. They have bodies, but they are souls. So they are souls who have bodies and have some psychic abilities. But we are harvesting not people. We are harvesting souls. We don't really care about bodies. Bodies are, again, fruits of soul in this case. So we talk about souls, and then we have the gospel truth. So we do have the context, really. They poor souls. And of course we have the word poor. Little dears, poor souls, poor dears, poor souls, poor fools. They're poor, they're robbed. I'm the winner, but somehow that doesn't just work. They, poor souls, were convinced, still are. So that's nice, because as the poem is flowing, you can see how he's talking to himself.
Yes, so he is saying things not in a way that a tragic actor might deliver his monologue, his soliloquy. It's not in the way that we are accustomed to think of. It's just like talking to himself or talking to us as his partners in crime, without sometimes trying to be very sometimes trying to look well educated and using difficult words, obfuscating, that's obfuscate the meaning. But very often, probably more often than not, just using simple words, simple examples, the wood and the trees, and still they were convinced and still are convinced using the normal way, speaking the way normal people do when just talking to each other, when stopping, when interrupting themselves, and so on.
Yeah, and as a poem, it's not fixed, it's flowing like normal speech. Again, we don't have rhymes, we don't have any rhythm, specific rhythm. We have this hypnotic, natural flow. So what's really good about this poem is that we go to the dark side. We don't like going to the dark side, we like to be the good guys. But here we go to the dark side, we go to the side which causes all the pain, all the suffering. We don't find victory there. We don't find any real triumph there. You would think, well, they're destroying the world, they're making kind of making us want to destroy the world, and we listen. Shouldn't they be triumphing? Look, it's falling apart. All is falling apart. Why are they not happy? What is wrong? Because the wheel keeps turning, the coin keeps spinning, and what seemed to be power turns to be not power. What seems to be like here again, it keeps turning. You think you are the master, but I'm the master. But in reality, you are the master, or the master is the master. And what seems a victory to me is not really a victory, because what I do just destroys my own work. How do you call it? How do you call it?
Self-destruction. Behavior.
No, I mean, what's the expression? I just forgot it. Just when you win, but the victory just ruins you.
Well, it's the Pyrrhic victory, something that refers to this man who won a victory, and it was won at such high cost that it was much worse than losing the battle.
So this is what happens in real life, real time, just now. For instance, let's say, just an example, just to play with it. Let's say that the virus is not what they say it is. Let's say they're using whatever it is to cause the panic. But what really happens is that people stop and start thinking and seeing and feeling. So it all backfires. All the evil, so-called evil plans are only helping us. It's like YouTube bans a video and then immediately everybody knows it's worth seeing. Because why would they be banning it for, if it's not, if there's nothing bad in it, technically? Why would they ban like flat earth videos? What harm in the flat earthers? They're just a very silly bunch of people. Why ban them? Interesting. So like they say, you can erase something if you don't like it, but by taking it out you create a hole, and then the hole draws attention to itself, and by the shape of the hole you can reconstruct what was in it. So by removing it, trying to erase it, you only make it worse. So again, that's what happens in the poem, that's what happens in real life, in real time, now, today, yesterday, today, tomorrow. the victory which is not a victory, the master who is not a master, who is a master, or maybe not the master, but somebody who thought he was the master isn't. It keeps turning. So they, poor souls, were convinced, still are. So we talk about fooled into believing. They were convinced, again, playing on the mental level, on psychological level, believing, thinking. And it's still true, he says, it's still true. It's not in the past, it's actual information, it's active, it's here. They owe me. They have not done enough to save the pitiable planet they domicile upon. So again, he says, they are poor, they are robbed, they think they owe me. Like, isn't that the ultimate irony? Isn't that the ultimate victory? You rob them and they think they owe you. Ah, how clever you are. Clap, clap, clap. So what's wrong with it? They have not done enough to save the pitiable planet they domicile upon. Yeah, again, save the planet, save the trees, save the bees, save the whales, save anything, anywhere, just not looking at yourself. It's like rule number one: if you want to save the planet, you start with yourself, because the planet is a representation of you personally. But by directing your energy into the, well, let's say external places, you're just draining yourself flat. I guess it could work. Like, if you manage to, like they say, save this, save that, save that. Maybe that would help you, but it's much easier and much more convenient to start with yourself. It doesn't require all that much resources as saving the whole planet, which might not be needing any saving anyway. Again, it's an interesting question. Why do people think that the planet needs saving? Why do people think that they're causing it? Why do people think that they can change it? It's like taking the part of God or nature or whatever you believe in, it doesn't matter. Saying that I'm the king of the planet, and if something changes on the planet, it's because of me. I'm important, I'm that big, and I can change it because I'm big and clever and important. And then you look somewhere away instead of looking at yourself. You say, oh no, there's poor children in Africa. Oh no, there's a war in Iraq. Oh no, there's a problem in the Arctic or somewhere. Oh, the poor polar bears look a little bit more blue than the other year. Anything to distract yourself from the real question, the only real question, which is the me-ness of me. Who am I and what is happening to me? It's always easier to look at something that is not, or seems not to be you, obviously. So it always goes well. You just have to point and say, oh, there's a problem with bees. Oh, there's a problem with dolphins. And oh, hooray, now we have another reason not to look at ourselves. Hooray, hooray, hooray. It doesn't matter if the bees come from another planet like how the dolphins do. The bees come from another planet, or they can move at will, they can move to other planets. It's not a problem for them. They don't need a spaceship, they just kind of disappear here and appear there, and they create a backstory. Like they say, the dolphins only appeared on planet Earth about 100 years ago, maybe a bit more. And then they created backstory, so you can see ancient paintings, like in Rome or somewhere with dolphins. They just changed it to the time flow a little bit. So you would think that they've always been here. Same with the bees. Same with the trees. If a tree doesn't want to be cut, you'll never cut it. You won't see it. Like mushrooms, if you go looking for mushrooms and the mushroom doesn't want you to find it, you'll never see it. Anyone who's been out picking mushrooms knows that. You could have 10 billion other people looking for mushrooms. They will never see your mushroom, even if it's just in the plain sight, because they have their kind of telepathic fields or perception filters. So you look at the mushroom, you don't see it. You look at the tree, you don't see it. So why would you think that they need saving? They're much more advanced than human beings in that sense. But it's always much easier to say, oh no, we have too much plastic. Well, maybe that's the plan. How do you know? Oh, I know because I'm human, and that means I'm really, really clever. I have a very, very big machine to computate it. Okay.
Yeah.
At the same time, he says, the pitiable planet. Just how it comes from your mouth. Pitiable planet. Pitiable planet. So again, the pitiable planet they domicile upon, it's not his planet. It's not his planet. He's not from this planet. He doesn't care about this planet.
Yeah. And of course, pitiable is not a sign of care. It's just, again, a way to be ironic about it.
Mm-hmm. So if it's a pitiable planet, it doesn't deserve a name, just a big rock in space. Whether it's spherical or a disc or whatever you call it, doesn't matter. It doesn't need a name, just another planet. He comes from a better place, a better planet, or a better reality, or more interesting reality. And apparently he has to stay here to do his job, and he doesn't like it. It's like if they send you to some place which is stupid and dirty, and you just have to go there because you have some job to do, some work to do. You don't start liking the place. It's a little bit like the English and their colonies. They come to the colony, they don't like the place, they don't like the people, they don't think that the people there are people. The Indians, or it doesn't matter, any place which is not Britain. So it happens again and again. We are reprojecting our history. We have it in a fractal way. We have Lucifer, who comes to stay here, who doesn't think that humans are people, who thinks he has to work with some stupid cattle on some stupid planet. We have the English coming to India or Italy or some other place, and not believing, not thinking that the local people are people. It's all recorded, it's all in our history, because it keeps repeating on many, many levels. And of course we have the word domicile. What can you tell me about that word?
Well, domicile is directly connected to the Latin word domus, which also happens to be the Russian word, meaning home, exactly the way it's in Latin. And of course, home is a place where we are supposed to feel comfortable, well at ease, and in Russian there's this phrase, feel yourself at home. I think it also exists in English.
Yeah, feel at home.
Yeah, so that's something nice, and it seems that the nice thing that this planet used to be, the planet which they inhabit, which they domicile, is now being destroyed.
Well,
so it's no longer a safe place.
Well, when I read it, or when you feel it as you read it, well, I do. So, pitiable planet. When he says domicile, I think he really means the docile. So again, easily managed, easily.
Or imbecile.
Or imbecile, or docile. So I think it's a pun. I think we have a pun here. Because he really thinks and knows for a fact that they're stupid. They're cattle, they're just imbecile, docile. Because they're not dominant, they're domicile. If only they knew. So again, if only they knew why say that? Why would he, for a second, wish that they knew?
Maybe then, if they knew what was happening to them, they might resist it. And instead of claiming an easy victory, he might entertain himself by giving them a battle.
Could
a
be.
Battle where,
or maybe it's a natural wish of any criminal to be known, because you're doing your best or your worst, you're being clever, and nobody even knows. It's like, I want the world to know my art. Well, maybe, if only they knew. Or maybe it's just like, what would be if they knew? Would they resist? Would they not? Maybe. So, but fat chance of that, fat chance. Again, now we have clever words, now we have fat chance. We serve them a potent dish. Again, serving. We are here to serve, but what is it? What is our service? A potent dish. Again, it's big, it's powerful. Paid them a shekel or two for the complicity. How? How do shekels come into picture? Why not a pound or two, a penny or two, shilling or two? Why shekel or two?
Isn't shekel sort of Israeli money?
It is.
Israeli currency?
It is.
It is. It is. Does it then provide an important historical religious connection to the time described in the Bible and in Gospels?
While they use them today, it's not.
They use them today, yeah.
So somehow we have a Jewish energy in it. And they are Jewish because they are accepting shekels. You can only pay people with their own money, their own currency. If I'm a fish, then I don't want a bird currency. If I'm a frog, I don't need a cat currency. Yeah, so somehow people who do it are connected to the Jewish energy, apparently.
Okay.
Or maybe, maybe it's another reference to the Bible. Or maybe shekel is like the shekels, like a chain. So you think it's a shekel, as in money, but really it's your shekels, as in chains. Maybe.
Maybe.
And then again, shekel is not a big thing. It's like nothing. So maybe that's another reference to like Jesus. Maybe. So you sell yourself for nothing, for a penny, for a shekel or two. You sell yourself really cheap, and then you just agree to it. You don't know your value, or you state your value as really cheap because that's what they lead you to believe in. They teach you that you are worthless, that there are that many millions, billions people on the planet, just same as you. You're not important. You're like a machine, you can be replaced, while we know that every person is unique. There's never a serial production of people. But you don't know it, you don't think, you know it, but you forget, you don't think about it. Again, like it says later in the poem, reason is more important to you than common sense, than your intuition and your feeling. You know you're important, but they say, no, there's just billions and millions of people like you, which is just not true. And then you can sell yourself for a shekel because you think that's your worth. Then again, we enter the murky waters of trade, because buying, selling is really weird when you think about it. Where do the prices come from? How okay, you maybe you can kind of talk about prices for goods, but not really, again, if you trace them. But if it's a price for a service, how do you define a price for a service? How do you know you pay your hairdresser that much, or your teacher that much, or somebody else that much who does something for you? How do you know? Nobody knows. Maybe your job is priceless because you're using your power, your energy, your life force, and that is priceless. So each time when you go into like job and money, you're just selling yourself for a shekel or two because you're infinite. But then again, we are kind, we're not greedy, so we kind of agree to it. And the difference is paid in fairy money, which is invisible but really good for you. So pay them a shekel or two for their complicity, because they're complete imbeciles. For their ill-informed agreement to bow before the goddess of mal-informed consent. Ill-informed, mal-informed. Like we say, they teach you something which is not strictly true. And as you're not doing your own research, as you don't believe your own feeling, your own intuition, your own knowledge, you're buying it just because you're lazy, basically. You're too lazy to make your own research. Well, then you sell yourself for a shekel. It's about information, because how the kind of information you get forms your perception and the way you see the reality. And the way you see the reality is how you act in this reality. And that is what they're aiming at. So if they can teach you your perception, then they don't need to do anything else. They have you. Because your action follows your perception. If you're a cat who grew up with a rabbit, you think you're a rabbit, even if you're a cat. You have no idea. Your perception causes your action. Easy. And with the internet, it's ever so easy to malinform people, to ill-inform people. You just insert as many fake news as you like, and if there's enough number of those, and people start believing it, just because it's everywhere. It can't be fake, like they say, all these Chinese can't be wrong. Yeah. Or, dear, I have found the perfect place for the picnic. How do you know? Well, all those ants can't be wrong. So we talk about illness, ill-informed. So it's not right, it's sick, it's rotten, it's twisted. Ill-informed agreement to bow. So why do you agree to bow? Why do you sell yourself for a shekel? You agree, but it's not a real agreement because you don't know all the details. You haven't read the fine print. You haven't seen it. It's like in The Simpsons somewhere, like, but you didn't read the small print, the fine print. Where was it? On the backside. Backside of what? Of the photograph on my table, on my desk. So it's somewhere around, but it's not straight forward. Again, the rule seems to be that whatever is happening, it has to be announced. The information has to be available, but it doesn't have to be straight. It can be in a popular film, in popular music, it can be in a children's book. It's something that everybody can see, no problem. Everybody knows about it. It's famous, but nobody pays attention to it. It can be on news, but in a such form that it's not obvious. There are many ways of putting forward the information. It has to be around, that's a rule, but again, you have to look for it, apparently. Right, now let's have a little break.